Cheers, by the way.
Cheers. What's up, everybody? We are back. John Delarose here, delarose.com. That's DELARROZ.com. One day I'll have a nice radio announcer voice that I'll develop. I'll get one of those microphones so it's like I'm talking right into it, right? And it'll be very nice. But go sign up. You get a free graphic novel from me for doing so. And I also put the link in the chat for Bad Ideas website, which is right here. I'll share it on the screen here real quick. And here is where you can go and like pick your comic shop. Like so,
Amazing.
I'm in the United States. I am in the sunny state of California. I get to select a store. Oh my gosh, Flying Colors is my store. And then I get to like tell Flying Colors that I want Bad Ideas stuff, which I've already done. So, but it makes it very easy. Very cool pre-order system. I like that a lot. How are you, Dinesh?
Good, man. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on. This is Dinesh Shamdasani. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, perfect.
Yes. All right. I know you as Dinesh S because
that's my Twitter handle. Yeah,
that's your Twitter handle.
Yeah.
So it works out. And I met you like I guess 2 years now at Stockton Con, which is a small con. And said hi real quick, and then you were telling me all about the Bloodshot movie, which was in development at the time. And I know some people are like kind of down on that movie a little bit, but I freaking loved it.
Yeah, great.
I loved it. I thought it was a lot of fun. And it was just Vin Diesel blowing stuff up. I don't want any more than that personally. I don't know.
It really comes down to that. If you dislike Vin Diesel, any big star has a certain contingent that just hates him. So if you hate Vin Diesel, there's nothing for you in Bloodshot.
Yeah, right.
It's a Vin Diesel movie.
It was a pure Vin Diesel movie. And I love Vin Diesel movies. So that just made me happy quite a bit. But did I have it an hour later on the schedule? Whoops. Sorry about that, people. I guess I messed up. Oh, well. So Dinesh is the former CEO of Valiant Comics. And now, what's your title with Bad Idea? Just
co-CEO.
Co-CEO.
I've managed to find a sucker to take half the responsibilities away from me.
Okay, who's your co?
Warren Simons, who was our editor-in-chief at Valiant.
Supremely talented individual also. Yeah. So cool. Awesome. And so I recognize a lot of familiar names of who you're working with, and I love them. So I'll just kind of like, I got introduced to Valiant pretty late in the game. I think it was 2017, actually. And I saw this bright yellow freaking thing on the stands that said XO Manowar really big. And it looked like a Star Wars poster on the cover. And I was like, okay, it's bright yellow and it's drawn my attention. It's got pretty art on the cover. I'll check it out. And so I grabbed that. And this was Matt Kintz and Thomas Giorello. Giorello, is that how you pronounce that?
Giorello.
Their run on XO Manowar. And I grabbed it. I opened it up. That was the fastest paced comic I think I ever read. I think I read it in like 3 minutes because it's just like, I think Matt has like very little dialogue in that issue. And it's just like, or maybe that's issue 2. I don't remember.
No, there's a lot of dialogue in
it. Is there a lot? One of them has
it's extra sized, but it is intense. So
there's very intense. Maybe I didn't read it. I don't know. I think one of them is like a siege like assault, and it was just pure action. Maybe
that's one. No,
that's one.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't remember at this point. I'll go back and reread it, but freaking awesome! It was Conan the Barbarian in space, basically. Yeah. And then I researched all this, and I'm like, oh, Tomas did Conan the Barbarian, so this makes sense.
He did.
So very cool.
And Matt's been to space, so it kind of worked out.
Matt's been to space?
No. But actually, I wish we'd pitched it that way when we were selling that book.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. He's in a much worse place than we are, which I think is Missouri, right?
St. Louis,
yeah. Oh yeah. That's
good barbecue.
Definitely, it's good barbecue, but it's definitely not California. So
no, it's not California.
So your history in comics. How'd you get involved in all that? Like, what was like? How'd you get into like Valiant Comics and where'd that come from?
Okay. How to do the short version of this? I have no right to be in comics, frankly. I was I promise I'm gonna make this short. I had just graduated film school, USC Film School, and I was working in the movie business. I was working at Universal Studios, and very quickly disenfranchised and jaded with the movie business. And
so you went to a much nicer business, which is the comic business. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, I fell down. I fell downwards. I succeeded downwards. But but I loved Valiant growing up as a kid. I loved comics, loved Valiant, and I was very jaded. I saw X-Men 1 open, and no one at Universal Studios understood why it opened at 56 million, and Spidey 1 opened, and 114, I think, was the biggest of all time at that point. No one at the studio understood why. Everyone was like, what's going on here? Every comic fan in the world knew why. So I thought, okay, well, maybe IP's a play. Maybe this is something that can help me. And because I'd never made a comic book, I didn't yet know how it was done, so I hadn't fallen in love with it. And I Googled my favorite company from when I was a kid, Valiant, found out that they had they'd been sold to Acclaim, video game company. Acclaim had published a number of books, a number of video games, and then Acclaim had mismanaged their video game division, non-Valiant related. They went under, Chapter 7 bankruptcy, and there was a bankruptcy auction coming up. And so this sounds much more impressive than it is. I managed to put together a small group of people with some money to attempt to buy the Valiant rights. We didn't win. We came in second at the auction, but there was it was very muddy. There was lawsuits flying, trademark disputes, and somehow we ended up getting the rights. And then I spent 8 years doing everything wrong you could possibly do in publishing, until finally there was nothing else I could do wrong. And the only choices left in front of us were the correct ones. And that is when we started building the 2012 launch. So that's how I got into comics. That's the short version. A lot of questions in short there. But.
Yeah. So I do not know this story. So this is really interesting, and that does sound really impressive. To go.
As I say, it sounds impressive. It's not. It was really just bumbling your way into the right door. Eventually.
We got a couple happy comments here. We got whoops. That's the omnibus he was talking about. Where's your first one? Only Valiant comic I read was Britannia. It was fantastic. I was taken aback by Britannia because I was really rolling through the superhero universe, and I grabbed it and I'm like, what is this? This is weird. And so I didn't actually appreciate it until my second read later, when I was like, oh, this is actually like just a brilliant comic. It just happens to have Valiant's name slapped on it. You know?
Well, that was the thing we were always trying at Valiant is we didn't have to be superhero exclusive. And so we were always pushing the boundaries of how far we can take the genre outside of superhero. And actually, very much so, what we did with Britannia is a test case for what we're doing a bad idea. Actually, in a number of ways, because it is pushing the genre sensibility, but also Peter Milligan wrote Britannia.
Yes.
He's a phenomenally talented writer.
Incredible. Yes.
Statics. And the kind of process we were working with Peter at Valiant was a different kind of thing. And I feel like it's crystallized here at Bad Idea. And the work he's doing at Bad Idea, I think, is perhaps the best work of his very long.
I didn't know you got
career.
Peter Milligan too, so that's a scoop for me at least. So cool. Wow.
We may not have announced that.
This is a new announcement live on this show. So how exciting! Armor Hunters and Harbinger Boys were both awesome. That was the one thing about your line. So once I got into it, and I'm going to go back to this whole history prior to this, because I'm now, my wheels are going. But when I got into it, and I got Exo Man of War, I started getting the trades of things. I just launched into it, and every single title I got into, I'm like, this is great too. This is great too. And I did not have there wasn't a single title I didn't like. So you crushed it. Like you really did.
Have you read Dead Drop?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe that's the one. That's usually the one.
Maybe I didn't read that till later. So and
don't worry about that one.
I didn't hate it. But
no, it's not bad.
It just wasn't. It just wasn't like wow, like these others were, right? So, but I didn't hate it. And yeah, I found that very impressive. And like, I've never been able to accomplish that with Marvel and DC, like in my entire life. It's just been like, I love, X, Y, whatever title it is. And then like, I wouldn't even bother with like, you can't bother with all of them because they put out like 80,000 titles per month. But it seems like they put quantity over quality there. And you guys just like did exactly perfect every single time. And you weren't going to mess around. But I guess you have to do that as a small company. It's actually very simple to do what we did. It's a lot of work, but it is a very simple strategy. And the strategy, very happy to. We stole it. The strategy starts with just deciding that you want to put quality first. Right.
And one of the things we looked at actually was Marvel in the 60s. And Marvel, a lot of people don't know this, Marvel in the 60s published 8 titles.
Right.
And they published them bi-monthly. So you would get Iron Man, you would get Tales of Suspense every other month. And in between, you would get maybe Tales to Astonish. So that would be every other month. So they would publish 16 books, roughly. Superhero books plus a couple non-superhero books, like maybe a war book or romance.
And I guess that allows your artists not to have to rush also with the bi-monthly.
Yeah, they did it because DC controlled the distribution, and DC would only give them 8 slots on the magazine truck to get to newsstands. So they had to figure it out that way. But what it does is it also allows your writers to do the kind of rewriting work, because it all starts with the writing, the script.
Right.
And writing is rewriting your writer, The more time in any creative endeavor, in any part of comics, the more time you're able to give the endeavor, the better it'll be. So the constant battle is, how do you find more time? And comics
I don't pore over stuff all day long, but what I like to do is I like to write a script and let it sit for a month, like, because then it's not when you're thinking of it, you're like, this is the best, and then a couple weeks later you're like, maybe that scene wasn't great. And allowing that time is what that does, because you can come back to it at that point from a fresh perspective. And then once the art's done, if you have time to breathe there, rewriting the script once the art's done is very important to do. Also, same with honestly, I like to go back after it's lettered and look through and read the dialogue aloud to myself.
That's key. That's actually key. Warren, our editor-in-chief at Valiant and co-CEO here, his specialty is actually doing his editing work with the rest of the company at the stage where it's completed and there's letters. You could print the book at that point, and then, because a lot of times the artists, because they're so talented, will do a lot of the storytelling that the dialogue is doing in the art, and you can remove lettering. Yes. And change lettering, or you can actually intensify something the artist's done, maybe an acting choice they've made that's really cool, and it makes the book just more nuanced and depth and deep.
Big time. I love doing that. That's one of my major tricks of editing that I do. So glad to hear Warren does that, because he's far more talented than I am. Cool.
Warren's very talented individual.
So really good stuff. Okay, so you said you failed for 8 years before doing this, which is I always like. We have a lot of like aspiring creators, of course, who are around here and all that. And like, don't worry about failure. Like, just keep going is always my advice 100% of the time. But what happened during those 8 years? Because I mean, I guess I only have the product that's 2012 forward, right? So
what happened those 8 years? I mean, I was in charge of Valiant, the dream job, right, for a Valiant fan, with zero understanding of how comics are made. The fact that you have to write a script, pencil it, ink it, color it, do production work, letter it, print it, not knowing how printing worked, not knowing any artists or writers, not knowing any printers, not knowing any of that stuff. And so bumbled my way into trying to figure all that out. And along the way, made some choices that were, fanboy choices, or just came from a place of naivety. We brought one of the most public things that we did that didn't work out was we brought Jim Shooter on board. Jim Shooter was one of the original founders of Valiant. He was the editor-in-chief of Marvel for a long time.
And I went back and I read his pre-Unity Solar stuff, and then the Unity crossover after. I got way into it. Like, you guys really hooked me big, and I fell in love with his work too. I mean, he's a phenomenal writer. Yeah, he is, and that's what we felt. We felt, we got to put the pieces back together. In many ways, we were trying to recreate initially 1992 Valiant, and that's a huge mistake, because that time is gone. So we brought Jim on board. We didn't say anything to anyone. We just had him working away, and it just was not the right match. And ultimately, we had how to put this. We would negotiate to bring 3 of the characters that had been licensed to Valiant, Philomena's Torok, into the company. It would have been a huge coup. Oh yeah.
And Jim, I think, he's looking at a bunch of kids that don't know what they're doing, making all the mistakes. Didn't have faith in us. So we took that deal behind our backs, went across the street to another publisher. And it was we didn't know. He left the office one day. We got to the office, all his stuff's gone. What happened here? He'd been coming in without telling us, taking the stuff out. Then we see at San Diego Comic-Con, he's announcing our deal with another publisher. Not a great situation.
Oh, bummer.
But it was our fault as much as his, because it wasn't the right fit. And the plan, he wasn't wrong. The plan wouldn't have worked. They executed basically the same plan we would have, and we got to watch it fail. And then I got to study it and figure out what didn't work, and then not make those mistakes, which is a huge benefit.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of, I guess, legacy stuff that you talk about going back to 1992. There's a lot of legacy stuff in the comic industry that is just done because that's the way it's been done for 30 years. And I know it's kind of crazy, and I'm seeing, just snippets of that idea. I barely know what's going on with things at this point. I was asking questions about it, which is good because it creates a mystique and suspense. And I'm a big Steve Ditko fan. And he would always ramble about that, and he'd hate fans asking questions, and he'd always be like, you know what, it's supposed to be a surprise. Like, he's like, I want to put out a book, and I don't want you to know what's in it. I don't want to put a synopsis out. You need to be surprised when you get that, and then you're going to enjoy it more. And that's totally really a refreshing attitude, and it's kind of true. When we get these spoilers online, it's really hard to do nowadays
in the digital world. One of the things we're doing at Bad Idea is we're just unabashedly lying. Lying's a horrible thing to do, but we are unabashedly lying. I'll give you, for instance, ENIAC 1 comes out now in less than 30 days, our launch book. And we have put up press releases and even finished pages of art and all sorts of regular promotion. And I can't think of any publishers ever done this before. Some of those are just complete lies.
Wow.
People are going to get the book and open it and be like, where's this thing I was promised? And what is this other thing that it's going to be fun. It's going to be, it might be a disaster, but it'll be interesting. Maybe you're right. Maybe we're in our Steve Ditko phase.
That's pretty cool. That marketing tactic really did not work well for him, but I'll just tell you, but I don't know. But you guys are not, your marketing tactic's not reclusive like that. He had a different thing, which I really admire about him a lot. But it did deter sales for him and ended up causing problems on that level for sales, unfortunately.
That's something that I think that we almost need to succeed. We've tried to build, at Valiant, we were trying to build Valiant to be huge, all-encompassing, something for everyone. If you like comic books, you like Valiant. Chasing the tail of Marvel and DC, obviously with none of the resources they have. Here at Bad Idea, we're not trying to make books that everybody likes. We're trying to make books that some people absolutely love. And in that way, it doesn't really work if everybody likes our books. As crazy as that sounds, we've failed, and probably the books have the edges shaved off. So I'm not worried if people get, a little annoyed with us. I don't want anyone to get upset. We're not trying to hurt anyone's feelings.
I have so much faith in Matt Kinn. Like, he can probably defecate on a page and like call it art, and I'd probably be like, yes, it is. So
where's my pen? I'm gonna write that down. I'll pitch that to Matt tomorrow.
I've what I did through Valiant. So I mean, really, you rekindled my interest in comics. Like, I would say you are personally responsible for this, because I had tuned out of almost all comics by 2017, right? Almost completely. I was getting a couple things. I get whatever Terry Moore puts out every month because he just does his thing, and he's great. And I maybe got, I think Chew maybe was still going at the time, so maybe I was getting that.
Yeah, it's still
going. So it's like, and that's about it. And I was just like almost just done with comics. And it's just because I felt like I'd been burned so many times by like the retcon continuity resets and things like that, and I was still. I'm still, it's 2021, and I'm still sitting here about like one more day, from Spider-Man, about to throw my laptop, like angry about it. But
we all are.
It's super irrational, but like whatever.
Yeah. It's not irrational. You're emotionally invested, like we all are. We're emotionally invested in this in a really big way, and it benefits those companies. And sometimes they take advantage. Sometimes they don't respect it. They have a duty to respect it, and they ignore that.
And it's a weird thing because they do want to push the next generation and get a new jumping on point, and they kind of do got to reset. I kind of get the tug of war, but like, there is a way.
The Ultimate line is an amazing way to do that.
Yes, and they did a wonderful job with the Ultimate line. You're right. And actually, Jim Shooter was really good about making sure that was good while he in his tenure at Marvel. Love him or hate him, I mean, it worked out really well.
Yeah.
So I was out of comics for a while and like very low like at things, and then suddenly I'm getting this entire Valiant line, and then I realized like, okay, so I should just follow all the Valiant creators on top of this, and then so I got into Matt, like, because I'm like, well, I like his Exo Manowar, I'm probably gonna like his Department H, was just coming out right now, and then I buy it and I'm like, holy crap, this is absolutely nothing like Exo Manowar at all. But
very different. Very different.
But I recognize his genius in there. I'm like, wow, this is a guy who isn't just writing his greatest hit over and over again. He is just experimenting. And when you get into that experimental stuff, and then of course after that I jumped to Mind Management and his Pistol Whip, and all these are just also like
amazing. They're all very different.
He's never let me down once. It's just like, I mean, just crazy good stuff. And so that's why I know ENIAC is just going to be like just whatever it is, it's going to be awesome. And it's got Louis LaRosa on the art, right?
Louis is doing the covers. Doug Braithwaite.
Another like
Dougie
Valiant, just like
one of the best storytellers
heavy hitter there. So good.
Yeah. And that's the thing you said earlier, that you got back into comics. I gotta say, man, the as a CEO, you suffer the potential problem of having it all be blamed on you if it doesn't go well, but you also get the benefit of kind of getting the credit if it all goes well. It's totally not true. At Valiant, we had a huge team that worked their asses off in every department. I mean, the internal executive team was like 50 people, and they've got like 200 creators. It takes an army to do the kind of books that we were doing.
Right. Yeah. And you guys had, and you were pumping out quite a few books a month. I mean, it was a full line. It was pretty cool.
The universe.
Yeah. And I had a thought, and I've now lost my thought. I just put the link back in the chat for Bad Idea. I really want you guys to sign up for your local comic shop to get get these books, because I know ENIAC #1's already sold out, at least for the first print, right? So
the first we had it. Yeah, we everything about Bad Idea has been wonderful. It's been a champagne problem because we've had far more demand. As I said, we kind of are built to not be for everybody. When we initially launched, we're only in some stores, select stores. We figured there'd be 25 stores in the world that would really give a shit about what we're doing. We immediately found that there was more than that. We upped it to 50, and then 100, then 250 locations. So now we're at about 300 locations for launch.
Cool.
Because it's a new company, because the other thing we're doing is self-distributing. So we're not part of Diamond. There's no digital, there's no Comixology, there's no trade program, there's no variants. There's all these crazy things that we're doing, hence the name of the company, Bad Idea. It's all things that any other publisher would look at and say, this is doomed to failure. And
I'm scratching my head about a couple of these things. And I'll let the chat know, because it's like you'll hear this and you'll be like, wow, this is crazy. But I also kind of like it, Well,
there's a very specific reason for why we're doing it all, and I'm happy to walk through any of it. But what happened with ENIAC was we had 300 stores. There's about 2,000 stores in North America alone. We have 300 stores globally, so it's a very, very small proportion of the global stores. We did our biggest, highest projection that we felt comfortable that the stores would order and have a readership for, because we're a new company. No one knows these characters. They know Matt, they know Doug, but they don't know the characters yet. And then I think Hero Trade, we did this book called The Hero Trade, came out. It's become this huge success. It's a $1,000 book on eBay if you can find it. And the retailers perhaps built a fan base around that, or perhaps overordered. I don't really know, but we got the numbers in, and they were, astronomically high for us.
I heard about that, and I was a little bitter because I signed up back when you were at the 50 store level.
Yeah.
And nobody told me this was coming out, and nobody saved me a copy. And I was like, what the heck? And I went to eBay, I do not have it.
Oh, the Hero Trade?
Yeah. So I did not get one.
No, we didn't tell anyone.
Yeah. So I was like, dang, I was a little, I was perturbed by that.
But we're going to reprint it. It's going to be
once I heard that, I'm good to go. Yeah. So cool. Yeah, but those are your little testing the waters there, and I guess it's a hyper success. So cool.
It was great. That was really, as you say, testing the waters for our model, and it worked really well. And then we didn't heed the lesson, and we now have to allocate the first print of ENIAC 50%. But we've been able to get what we're calling a not first printing. So we're not doing second, third, fourth, fifth printings. We're just doing. Here's the thing. Legally, you don't have any reason that you have to put second print, third print. Every time you go back to press, they just do it. You can call whatever you want. So we just said, what we're going to do? Every time we go back to press, we'll make it look exactly the same. Call it not first printing. Just get rid of the variant second printing so people can actually get them and read them. And so we will keep that in print forever. So anyone that wants to read a Bad Idea book will have the chance. If you want to collect it, though, it might be a little trickier, especially ENIAC one.
And I've harassed Joe Field to make sure I get that #1, but it's very cool. I saw that, I'm like, this is great, and that's kind of how I feel about making comics too. I mean, a lot of the Kickstarter circles, which is where I really operate, are really about hyper exclusivity and et cetera, and then people can't read their issue #1 when the issue #2 comes out, and that just doesn't work out very well. Yeah. So I do my Kickstarters, and I put a limited variant on there. So if you want the variant, that's going to be a dead thing, and you only have a couple hundred copies of that or whatever ever. And then after that, I'm 100% print on demand, so anybody can get into the book at any time. So now I'm on a volume 5 coming up soon of my main comic. Everybody could just pick that up on Amazon anytime and don't have to do it. It's the same sort of.
That's interesting.
Same sort of
it's
concept.
The same thing.
Yeah. So I guess in that way, more people don't do that. I've always been like, why aren't people doing this? It's just We're in 2021.
Publishers
You can
want
do this.
because they make money on the variants. They make a lot of money on the variants. So they're some publishers are in the business of manufacturing collectibles, not in telling stories.
Yeah,
not all, some.
I've noticed that, and I think, and that's kind of where the comic industry's forced itself to be, and I think that's narrowed
in many ways
the comic industry a lot. And you're probably looking at not only the comic industry here, but you're probably looking at manga and at European comics, and they're really just selling stories.
Different.
Yeah. So
and then also selfishly, the people that work at Bad Idea, myself included, we're just not interested in manufacturing collectibles. We're interested in telling stories. That's why we like comics. So even if this thing doesn't work, I think we would continue telling stories before we switch to making variants to build a successful company. We'd rather not have the company.
I like that attitude quite a bit. Cool. I want to show the just like the film for Extinction Day, which you put out today on Twitter. I don't have a good way to do this, guys, so I'm gonna like put it through my laptop speakers, and I'm sorry if there's feedback or whatever what happens here. But this video is so cool. So
we can't hear you, John.
Oh, okay. When I unplug my speakers, or my headphones, it automatically goes mute.
Yeah.
But they've got Robert Venditti, is what it comes down to, who has never written a bad story that I've read. No matter what he's on, Green Lantern or any of the Valiant books he were on, Hawkman's freaking amazing. He's just incredible. So I'm looking forward to like his like really purely independent stuff here. And this is the funniest, coolest video. You can tell you've got a film production background when you watch this. And I'm just gonna play it, and hopefully the sound comes across. Let me know if it works, guys. So.
Hi, I'm Robert Venditti, professional comic book writer, and I want you to know about the new Bad Idea comic book series, Tankers. As the world well knows, I'm what's called a method writer. That means before I begin a project, I don't just study the material. So to take a deep dive into the subject, I came to the one place on Earth where I can operate mechanized combat equipment, dig for oil, and shoot dinosaurs. Texas tea, baby! I'm down the tank! No oil yet? Every second of my immersive research experience guarantees that Tankers is unlike anything you've read from me before. I should know. I've read everything I've ever written. Tankers is about a crack team of mercenaries and mech suits who work for Greenleaf Oil. They get sent back in time to divert the comet and kill the dinosaurs. More dinosaurs in the past means more oil in the present. Who doesn't love that?
Yes.
And with a superstar art team providing breathtaking covers and interiors, Tankers is an action-fueled thrill ride of human versus dinosaur warfare that we can't wait for you to read. So go ahead, order Tankers today. I guarantee I'll be glad you did. As for me, I'll be finishing off these dinosaurs.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Extinction Day.
We should have called the book Extinction Day. That's a good title.
It is an amazing.
That was built by Rob. Pitched that to us actually.
Yeah.
He's very into all the Bad Idea tone and the Bad Idea market. So he pitched us doing something crazy like that. And he found this place. I believe
that was the coolest, craziest thing I might have ever seen. And gosh,
he threatened to pay for it himself if we wouldn't say yes. He went down there with a guy named Bronson McKinney, who's super talented director, editor, and Josh Johns, who's our head of marketing, built that with them. It's been a joy to watch.
What is that? The humor of that reminds me of something, and I can't remember what it is, and it's just like it's like right on the top of my head, and it's killing me. Was there anything that inspired that?
No, it wasn't. There wasn't anything. I'm trying to think what it would be. I mean, there's a lot of kind of subversive, kind of assholey. I don't know if I can swear on this.
Yeah,
humor that I think we're channeling here. We did a whole this campaign where the fans had to click 1 billion times this big red
I
button.
saw that. That was
before we started publishing.
I was like, really?
It's so mean.
I just laughed.
And we did a
everything.
bunch of videos with that.
Yeah.
And we've got Comics Pro, which is a kind of retailer publisher get together. It's happening next week, and we've got an equally stupid video that I'm sure it'll end up online for them, called "How to Sell Comics the Bad Idea Way," and it's equally annoying.
Awesome. I love it. It's very lighthearted, and that's Fiona in here says not everything has to be super serious. Nice. Yeah, right. There is a level like the attitude of comics has really changed to be super serious in a lot of cases, and you'll notice that the people I said I kept following through my kind of comic apocalypse where I quit there, they don't really take them, John Layman's stories really don't take themselves seriously. Terry Moore's I mean they're heart wrenching, they're gut wrenching, but at the same time they really don't take themselves that seriously. And I feel like that's a healthy attitude to have, especially it is a comic book or a funny book. That is the origins of all this.
But it's hard. I'll tell you why it happened. It's hard, and we did it at Valiant knowingly, because you start as a publisher. There's no money in comics, not really, and you start with very little money, and you've got to convince the retailers, you've got to convince the artists, the writers, the fans, licensees, that you're not going to go out of business in 6 months, that you've got enough resources to stay in business. And so you adopt this overly serious businessy tone to give yourself the impression that you're going to be around.
New York publishing. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess a bad idea. We're not even sure we're really going to be around, so why fake it?
Yeah.
We'll see. This whole thing might collapse in a month when nobody goes to pick up ENIAC #1. We'll see.
I don't think so. So I'm going to bet. I would bet. I would probably bet investing in a company that it won't go out of business. Don't hold me to that, but
no.
But I would bet that just based on what I'm seeing here, just it's and just the hype that's building. I mean, we've been seeing Bad Idea advertised heavily in several stores in Pittsburgh. Is that really a company, or that's all about pure entertainment? Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I love Dinesh.
For better or worse, that seems to be all we care about. We try to make ourselves a little more serious and care about stuff. It's just not. Life's too short.
Yeah. Cool. So I mean, I watched you at a con, and I was a little intimidated because I view myself as a bit of a collector here, and I watched you walking around with these graded slabs of the craziest comic books, and I'm like, holy crap, Dinesh is he's like the Richie Rich here of comics.
This is a new thing for me. Yes, I've just explained to you. I've just explained to you that there's no money in comic books. Let me tell you the one exception. There is one exception. If you have a bunch of investors, if you manage to build something with those investors like I did, and then those investors, how to put this without getting myself into legal trouble, want to take it away and pretend they did the whole thing and not your team, you potentially can be in a situation where they will pay you gobs of money to go away and giving you no choice, which is what happened to me. And so when you see me walking around with these CGC books, no one should feel bad for me.
Okay.
It is me trying to, because I love Valiant. I love Valiant. It's my favorite thing ever. It's me trying to fill that hole a little bit.
Okay.
And it turns out you can fill it a little bit with money. It's amazing what money can do.
It is. It's rich people have this glint in their eye that is different. And I was
have
like,
it now?
what is this? And I kind of figured out what it is. It's called happiness. So
money makes you miserable. Money. I will tell you now, being on the other side of this, not having money long enough to be hopefully distant from normal people. Money just makes you unhappy. It's not a good thing. But you get to spend it. No, look, you can buy things and that can make you happy. But there's a lot of pressure.
But it's that's like a dopamine hit, right? It's not like a real fulfillment sort of thing, right? And that's I always try to convert everybody in here to Christianity, which will probably include you. But because you got to have something that drives you that is a value that you're into, whether that's creating art, it's doing something and makes you fulfilled. That's the core of things, which is a lot better than at the end of the day. I just got this, which I'm stoked about. So I don't do the graded thing. I got out of single issues entirely. And I got into like the omnibus collecting game and all that. And this
awesome.
this Darkwing Duck is a stupid trade paperback, and like a couple of them appeared now at $150, but I have not seen it for under $700 anywhere.
Whoa!
And so I found one. I scooped this one up at cover price. I found it, and I was like, "Holy crap!"
Wow. It's amazing.
And it's just bizarre that this is a thing. But the collectibles game really has almost everything's become collectible, even though maybe you're not attempting to be collectible. Everything has. Yeah, especially in COVID with everybody online researching.
There's a big kick.
It's just like everybody's just like trying to get their little things that make them happy because we're stuck at home, right? So
existential dread. We're all filled with existential dread, trying to shop it away. But also, I think the people are not distracted with their outdoor life.
Right.
They're saving money because they're not in restaurants or bars or whatever they're normally doing.
That's a good point.
And I think everyone's chasing nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the comic book world, the original art world, the sport. I don't get sports cards, but I have friends that tell me about it, and it's like insane.
They've gone nuts too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's getting. What I feel actually for this stuff is I feel bad for people who want to get in on stuff, like and are kind of starting now because it's like, I can't buy like half the comic books that are sitting around me right now. I wouldn't be able to get them now. And it's just and that's really tough. And that's why I'm glad like you're doing something like Evergreen with your like not first prints. That way they can always get them. That's really great because it's always about new people. You need new people over and over and over again. People. I'm hoping my people will buy your stuff. I'm hoping there's a couple people who are following you who will buy my stuff who didn't know us before and are like, yes, this is about quality and fun. And I feel like the comic industry has become pretty insular in a lot of ways to where they're really not that open towards that. And I don't know, I'm trying to fight against that, but I don't know what to do about it. Yeah.
There's nothing even bad idea could do about it. Nothing we can do about it because it requires something of the scale of a Marvel. It requires something of the scale of the resources of a Disney to make a holistic, you're talking about fixing the direct market.
Right. Yeah.
Not really a thing that probably even DC can do.
Yeah. It looks like DC's making similar missteps to when Marvel tried to get their own distributor going back in the 90s also, which is a little painful, but I don't know. I don't know how long this direct market thing is going to last, especially if COVID keeps everybody locked down too. I think it causes problems for stores, for people going in also. But your business model by contrast is 100% direct market.
Yeah,
that's contrary again to
a ton of faith in the direct market. I don't think it's going anywhere. It's the only ink on paper business that is growing. I think the collectability is a kind of like wild card factor, the secret weapon of comics. And I think the store owners they have weathered being a store owner is incredibly difficult. It gives me anxiety even just thinking about having to order books 4 months ahead, knowing how many copies to order. No one's telling you what first appearance or death or whatever's coming. Then you got to deal with damages. Maybe the weather's not good on the day the book comes out. You've made a big commitment. And you got to do this with thousands of products every week. Yeah. That's insane. Plus all the other problems of being a small business as a store owner. Then you've got all the toys, the cards, you got to diversify. So all that breeds like the gym in Rocky, right? It breeds retailers that have the eye of the tiger. And so what I've seen is stores that have taken COVID and found opportunities to make themselves stronger with their Instagram live claim shows. Or there's one store in California, Collector's Paradise, who partnered with the pizza place next door, and you could get your weekly pull because comic stores had to close. They weren't essential, but food was open to deliver. You can get your weekly pull if you order a pizza from next door.
Oh, that's brilliant.
The pizza place come to the store, pick up your pull, and send you a pizza.
Collector's Paradise. So I of course got into those deluxe editions you guys made, the hardcovers.
Oh, great! That's awesome.
And those again, like at this point, like if you wanted to get in right now, guys, whoever's in the chat, you can't. It's like I would say Ray, how do you pronounce? Is it Rai? Rai.
Yeah, like samurai.
Samurai. That makes sense. Okay, and 4001, a couple of the middle Exo Manowar ones, they're like hundreds of dollars, and it's
really?
It's nuts.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You can't get them.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
it's too bad. Are they going back to press? The plan is to keep going back to press.
It's tough because like and with the hardcovers that, you know, it's a very, and I know Dark Horse has this issue too with BPR, their BPRD hardcovers are also going for $300-400 each. And it's like, do you go back to press and like, you know, how many can you really sell? Because is the collector's market really that big? It's a big risk with the expensive hardcover to print,
but
right?
You can do. What you can, we built a whole plan when I was there. We built a whole plan where we were going to do trade paperbacks, we're going to do deluxe editions. We were going to do, I forget what we called them, like essentially ultra deluxe editions that were going to be shorter, same amount of content, same amount of pages, shorter content, more backup features. So think about it like a DVD with extra features. And then we were going to do soft cover, kind of like the essentials that were larger. And each one time a different price point. And the goal was to keep changing the format so that you would have people double dipping, but that would give you your core to allow new people to come in. So if you missed the deluxe hardcovers, that's okay. We're just announcing the omnibus program or whatever.
Okay.
I don't know if
and that makes sense. And that's kind of what Marvel's doing. And they're doing a huge success with their epic collections and the omnibuses, etc. But those have gone out of print. I think they've done a couple reprints, maybe Exo Manowar Volume 1, things like that. But you know, it's really tough to keep those in print again, just because of that. And I think the market for those kind of types of books have really exploded in the last year also. And I think companies really just still aren't sure and don't understand and aren't aware of that. It's a weird deal, but I love those.
The inventory cost as well. It's very tough on those because you've got to store. You have to print them all at once. You got to store them, and they're huge. And unlike comics, comics are ordered. Unless you're self-distributing like we are, usually you get your orders before you have to print, and so you can print to order.
But they were a few of them were out of print when you were there, and I was able to get most of them from Paradise Collectors. I stumbled upon that Valiant forum, and he's very active on there, which is, as a business owner, just brilliant. It's like it's like there's Valiant customers right here. I'm gonna cater to them, and I'll ship. And it's like, good, okay, cool. So I got a whole stack of them from him when they were a couple of them were hard to find. It was good. So that's what got me into it. And stores like that are great. I just again like wonder, like, are they going to be able to weather every single one of these? Like you've mentioned they have so far and been pretty like it's no,
you will
interesting.
You will get a percentage that will go away.
Yeah,
and I think you will get. But I think even a much larger percentage will become stronger for it. And no one wants that. We tried to do our part. We continue to do our part to help the stores. Everyone in comics is. But I don't think we're anywhere near the kind of situation in which the direct market is in danger. I think it would take something. Look, if DC goes all digital or something like that.
Yeah. And that's what I'm kind of like looking at. I'm like, because they're floating these weird things like that, and that'd be a big deal. I don't think Marvel's going to do anything like that, but they seem to
Marvel's
just
making tons of money.
Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. They're like clockwork, right?
But probably what will happen if DC goes all digital, probably what will happen is someone like IDW or Dark Horse will license the DC print editions.
Right.
So we'll still get
that's a good point.
Books.
I could see that
because there's money to be made in them.
Now you're going in opposite direction with this. I just mentioned how I quit single issues. I am only getting these deluxe hardcovers and stuff like that these days. And Bad Idea has an idea, which we'll see how it is, that you're not even going to do trade paperbacks, right?
No trade, because the inventory cost at Valiant just 3-4 years in, I remember looking at the book sitting on 7 figures worth of inventory, and these things they sell every month, but you sell like you trickle out, and you're paying for warehousing, and you've got all this money tied up in printed books that's sitting in a warehouse. I'd rather put that money into the stories, into better artists, more time to be able to tweak the scripts. And so we're asking people to do a little bit more. We're asking people like you to move back into single issues. We're asking people to find a store that maybe isn't their normal store to pre-order, but at the same time, we plan on over-delivering as well. And every one of our books, 22 pages is the regular kind of comic book. Marvel and DC tend to do about 20 pages. We're not even, Tankers is 32 pages. Every issue Tankers is at least 32 pages. Plus, on top of that, every single issue we publish has a backup, a B-side story, short little 8 to 10 page story that's a completely different tone, completely different little tale. And so Tankers
you're rocking it old school style. I love it.
Yeah, like DC Comics. So for instance, Tankers, you're going to get 40 pages of story at a minimum.
Okay.
Which is, again, a terrible idea for a publisher to spend that much money, but I don't know. We think we have a way to make it work.
Now, P. Alexander asked about what about on-demand trades, and of course, you're trying to build the hype for these single issues right now. Which you know, with these types of publishers and what's going on, right? This is the type of thing you talked about double dipping before. Like that's what I did with Valiant, because I knew you guys were small, so I'm like, I'm going to buy the single issues and I'm going to buy the deluxe editions just because I'm going to buy the single issues.
That's very cool,
just
man.
To support you. It's you have to. It's like if you want a real alternative to Marvel and DC, and for comics to grow beyond just like generic the cape schlock, which I love. Don't get me wrong, you guys know I love it. But I want other things too. I want comics to be a flourishing, interesting industry where you can. Where I want to be able to put out a romance comic book that's just a pure romance comic book without superhero stuff, without super stuff. Yeah. And I want people to be able to buy that and be able to market that. And right now, I'm making it anyway because I love storytelling.
Are you really?
Yeah, but because Jack Kirby cut his teeth on this stuff. It was huge back in the day. But it's a huge risk because like you know, I've got a sci-fi audience mostly. It's like I'm telling you guys just trust my storytelling, right? But it's but it'd be nice like to have just like different people who are interested in different things be able to check out a comic book and not just like auto connect comic book to, I don't know that I want to buy like Superman, you know? That's where the American audience is right now. So yeah, I think it's important.
But it's changing. It's changing. I think things like Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Changes that. There's a ton of them. Lock and Key, Why the Last Man's Coming now as a TV show. That'll probably help.
Oh, really?
Things.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So that's helpful. I think it'll take time.
Yeah.
But you're right. And look, in terms of, I should answer the question. In terms of on-demand trades, that's something we're looking into now. We want to make sure that everything we do is about the anticipation, which is very hard to do these days because everything is digital and everything's available at your fingertips. And we do believe that there is a other half of the coin to experiencing something and falling in love with it, which is a little bit of a treasure hunt. As sometimes annoying as that can be, it does make things a little brighter, a little more interesting.
Treasure hunting. I got to tell you, and so do you. Of course, you miss lab comics. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. We want it to be in stores. We want it to be physical and in stores. So if we can figure out a way to keep within that box that we've built for ourselves, then we would do on-demand trades. The other component is that for the first time, when we started to look at having to allocate ENIAC 1, for the first time we started thinking, maybe this is not a bad idea. Maybe this will continue. Will we grow to a point where we can't stay in this box anymore? And then we're just going to become giant sellout assholes that will do all the things that we're saying we won't do because we'll have to do variants and trades and digital. I don't know. I mean, I'd like to not. We're going to try like hell not to.
You're experimenting. And if the experiment works, then you're going to do something different, which I appreciate because, you know, that's how you produce art is experimentation. For real. Okay. So ENIAC is going to be your first book, and I've got a little bit up here. I've got we can't trust any of this stuff, unfortunately, but you can't. We were just told that like this might not even be what the book is. It might not even be in the book. But you've got
Adam Freeman, our head of sales today, was asking me. He was like, "When are we going to tell people that some of this stuff is not real?" And I was like, "No, we're going to wait." And here I am tonight, just giving it away. Sorry, Adam.
That actually really excites me because now I'm looking at here like, okay, so I don't even know what I'm getting, and I'm okay with that. But I was going to preview this.
Look at Doug's art.
I know Doug's art is so great. So are you actually commissioning pages that might not be in the book, and you like from Doug that he's actually drawing full Doug Braithwaite art that might not be in the book?
Maybe. If I ask that question, you're going to get too much of a clue as to what we're doing. Look, there's a lot in the books, right? There's the A story, there's the B story, we're going to hide all sorts of things all over the place. The hero trade is a great example. You know, we for anyone that doesn't know, what we did is we took, actually it was a B-side. It was a B-side that Matt Kinnon and David Lapham put together. We liked it so much that we kept it black and white. We printed it as its standalone comic book on the weirdest newsprint uncoded. It just feels like some weird comic book thing that you had to make it at Kinko's. And we sent it to stores with a letter, and the letter said, "We love your store," which is true. "This is our first comic book," technically true. We'd love if you would sell this on in your shelf. And if you want more, email us at theherotrade@gmail.com at $3 a piece, knowing full well threat market's not built to support this kind of thing. I should say, we didn't tell them it was from us. We didn't tell them who the creative team was. It looked like, we tried to make it look like,
oh, nice. That's neat.
Someone that was like a kid that shopped at the store who happened to be pretty good, had built it and sent it to them. And then later we told everyone after the deadline to order was over that it was us. Cool. And so we're going to try and do more things we have a lot of things like that planned.
Art's absolutely beautiful. So
Doug's great.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got ENIAC, we've got Tankers, Whalesville. I heard about a little bit. Is this going to be a single one? Are you doing one shots too? We're
doing everything that they tell you not to do is the publisher we're doing. That's essentially how we started. Amazing. We made a list of all the things that we weren't meant to do at Valiant, and we're like, well, let's do them all. So Whalesville is one large single story, one large. I don't know what the format technically is because it's kind of a new thing. OGN or one shot or single issue. It's something in between, and the tone is very much Pixar or Miyazaki.
Cool.
In the sense that, it's definitely something that you could read as a kid. I don't even know if kids really read comic books, but it's also something that you could fall in love with as like any age, like a much older adult. And the premise is this: the premise is there is a Japanese whaling ship, and on that ship is a little boy, and his father's the captain. And that ship is chasing a big whale, and the whale bumps the ship, and the boy falls into the water and gets swallowed whole. The boy wakes up, and he is in the whale's belly, and there's a whole city in the whale's belly made up of all the things that the whale had swallowed, including inhabitants like a talking crab, a seagull, a fish, etc. And they don't know that they're in the belly of a whale. They think this is their whole world.
Wow, so cool.
But the kid knows, and the kid also knows his father's going to stop at nothing to find this whale and kill it.
Who's writing this one?
This is Matt Kint and Adam Polina is drawing the hell out of it.
So is this obviously there's a Jonah element to that. Is that's intentional? Matt, everything with Matt's intentional. I shouldn't even ask. So okay.
It's definitely an influence on it. It's but it's a kind of a modern day parable about how we kind of have kind of our own worlds that we're building, and part of what all of our jobs is right now is to make sure that technology isn't creating a little bubble for us. But then it's also a story about this boy that finds a magical world. And his new friends that he meets, and the art isn't. I cannot tell you how. I think we've put some pages up online, but the art is insane. When we showed to the comic stores, this was the book out of everything we showed them. They were like, this is something we really want.
Okay, cool. And I don't think I know anything about the Lot or Sleigh Bells.
I'll talk about Sleigh Bells first.
Okay,
Sleigh Bells is insane. Sleigh Bells is a book that I did not want to publish, and frankly, still don't want to publish. But Warren loves this idea.
Oh man, I almost spit out my wine. All right,
and you gotta be a good partner. So Sleigh Bells is, if you've ever wanted, in July no less, if you've ever wanted the story, essentially the Rambo story with Santa Claus as Rambo.
Yes,
this is your book.
I'm in.
Zeb Wells. I wanted to fail so badly. Zeb Wells, who's a genius, and David LaFuente, also genius, put the book together. And essentially, a hunter and his son are going on a hunting trip, and they see a deer on a ridge which you shouldn't hunt deer on a ridge, and they shoot it, and it happens to be one of the reindeer on Santa's sleigh, and it causes this big collapse of the whole sleigh, and Santa wants revenge, and he stalks into the town this boy and this kid live in, and just SWAT team, magical murder. It's his mistress is involved. I mean, it's like there's nothing. We've taken a religious saint and done horrible things to him. But it's also testosterone filled. And
this is a Christian channel, but I'm okay with this. Like I don't know. I like Rambo. So.
We've taken the commerciality. I mean, I said to one, I'm like, he's a saint. And one was like, oh yeah, he is.
He is.
Not really, So we shouldn't. Also, comics has a history of this. EC Comics did in the 50s a Santa Claus story and got in a lot of trouble because he's a saint. And there's some things
do you know what book that's in?
Yes, it's in it's in what was the Mad spinoff they did? It was called Panic issue 1.
Okay, I've got the Panic hardcover, so I'll look for that and I'll try to read that tonight. That's interesting. Cool.
It's funny. It's just it's mean also. So that's Sleigh Bells. And again, it's like Whalesville. It's kind of oversized one-shot OGN kind of thing.
That's awesome.
Still time I could work that in.
Yeah.
And the lot's a lot of fun. So Marguerite Bennett, who is like an amazing writer, but also like a savant when it comes to horror. She just knows the subgenres and the specificity of the iconography conventions of the horror genre so well. She's writing this, and
all I've read of hers is Power Rangers, believe it or not.
You should read some of her stuff for Aftershock.
Aftershock's a good company too. Yeah.
Okay. I think she's produced the best stuff at Aftershock. I haven't read everything Aftershock, so that's not fair to say. But she's produced the best stuff that I've read from Aftershock. I like them. But this is the premise. The premise is, the backstory is, I should start with the backstory. The backstory is, imagine like a Stanley Kubrick-esque film director, very much into authenticity. He's shooting a horror film in the 60s, and the horror film involves an occult ritual. And he goes and he finds a real cult and brings them in and has them do a real ritual. Of course, he doesn't believe any of this stuff. Now they conjure something. Horrible murder, mayhem. The film shoot is shut down. The studio buries it. They lock away the stage that it was shot at. And for decades, it's just locked away. There's an evil spirit in there. It's a haunted house story. And then modern day, there's a new CEO of this film studio. And she's looking at the books, and she sees this amazing stage, prime real estate in LA, perfect for shooting in, and it's just sitting on the books. And every year they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars just keeping it locked away. And she goes, why? So she opens it up, unwittingly releases this demonic thing.
Cool.
And Margaret's done a great job with it. It's awesome. Very excited about it.
Awesome. Well, this is a great lineup. So I noticed I was thinking about one of my questions at the beginning before I was going to go into this. I was thinking about asking you, what are you drinking, by the way?
I'm drinking like a 16-year-old. I'm drinking a Moscow Mule. I have wine here. I'm going to move to wine at some point.
You're going to you can do Moscow Mules and wine on the same night and not get sick.
I'm in publishing, man. That's the start. That's the start of it.
I've got a bad stomach. It's like I got to stick to one thing. Yeah, it's too bad. But I like Moscow Mules. I'm a kind of a vodka drinker when I'm not a wine drinker. But I can't do both on the same night. Yeah, not at all.
Have you tried going mule to wine?
Yeah.
The other way is harder. Okay.
I know the other way is harder. Yeah. But it's just I think at some point especially with a mule, like really overloads sugar, like because wine's got a lot of sugar too. And then I have problems with that. But good stuff. But my main question that was not my actual question. I was going to think about ahead of time. I was gonna ask, like, how are you gonna avoid, like, with the single issue thing and no trades thing, the second issue drop? But I actually see how you're doing that here. You're very sneaky about this. You don't just pre-order issue number one. Nobody's that's not an option. You pre-order the series.
It's not an option here. This website, I should say, this website is, if you pre-order from this website, you're not guaranteed. What we're doing here, and actually says, we're here to help. Pick a store below, give us your details, and we'll let them know so they can get in touch and confirm your pre-order. Every store has different pre-order guidelines, right? Some stores might say you have to pre-order at least 5 titles. Some store may say you have to put your credit card on file. Some stores say you have to prepay. So what we do is we take the information, we send it to the store gets in touch. So like Joe Field of Flying Colors, if you fill this form out, would get in touch with you and say, okay, here's my rules for pre-ordering. Now, because we built the site, we haven't given you the option to pre-order just one book, but certainly you could at different stores.
Right.
How do we avoid the second issue drop? We don't. Again, I don't think this thing will work if we sell 100,000 copies. We sold 100,000 copies of XO1 in 2017. If we do that here, I don't think they'll sell through. If we sell them into stores, there's not 100,000 fans. There's not a quarter of that, frankly, yet. In time, maybe. So our plan is to try and build ourselves to not worry about that. And here's how. No inventory cost on trades. Digital, frankly, doesn't sell enough for anybody to warrant really the effort in terms of time, so no digital. Variants, it costs money to build these variants, and they help sales a little bit, but again, it's time as well. That's time I'd rather have to work on scripts, etc. We don't publish a lot of books. We don't have any overhead in terms of, the staff is very, very, very small. Everyone's wearing 14 hats. There's no offices. We don't care about the fact that it's, kind of embarrassing that we don't have offices. Doesn't matter. We'd rather take that rent money, put it into the books. We're all working digitally. Turned out to be a great decision because of COVID. Imagine we were paying rent right now. But every decision we come to, we kind of approach it that way. can we not do this? Is it ego? Is it necessary?
Right. Cool. Well, no, I emailed Joe and I just said, "Bad idea stuff" was my title of my email, because I'm eloquent like that as a writer, right? And I said, "I'm just making sure you've got me on for all of these. Their business model might be a bit silly, but I am hyped," and that's
Awesome.
and that's what I said. So yeah, so
we've been in touch because of this allocation. We've had to be in touch. Adam Freeman has been in touch with practically every store that is in our program. And actually, he and I talked about Joe today. And Joe, I think you'll be totally fine in terms of your copies.
Cool.
I think he has, even with the allocation, he has enough for the pre-orders. If you pre-ordered, if you haven't,
I did. Of course, I did.
Then not for printing.
Now Joe charges you in advance. He's smart too, because he's like, if you're pre-ordering, I'm charging you, and I'm like, oh, do it. I'm good. And that's a good thing to do, because I actually ran a comic book store when I was 18. I thought, gosh, I'm out of high school now. The best thing, like, I love comic books. I'm going to start a comic book store.
You started your own store? Or you worked at a store?
I started my own store.
That's crazy.
Yes, it was absolutely crazy. It was a bad idea, believe it or not.
How long were you there?
I was there about a year.
Did you sell it, or did you shut it?
I sold it. I didn't go out of business, but I sold it. And I wasn't underwater. I was underwater probably the first 3 months, but I wasn't underwater by then. But I wasn't making enough to, like, honestly, like, it's a hell of a life. You got to sit there like 7 days a week, and you don't have money to pay for a employee. At least I didn't. It was
incredibly hard job. You have to love it.
And I loved comics. And my first 3 months, even when I was losing money, I'm like, haha, I now am reading the entire Marvel line. I'm not just reading like the 5 I buy a month, and I could just read it real quick and put it on the shelf. And then by month like 6, I'm like, I'm not even reading comics.
Yeah, but everyone expects you to. People come in to buy comics, and they say, "How's this one?"
Yeah, and I'm like,
I can't read 300 books a month.
I know, it's nutty. So it was a bad idea. I sold it. I got rid of it. So I know exactly how hard it is, and especially like just being in business for years like that. But I got left with like you'd have your pull lists and all that, and I just, most comic stores actually just trust their customers, and maybe it's a little different now, but back then, like, you just give them a list, and if it's 30 books long and you didn't pick up for 3 months and then you never show up again, they'd just be there. And so I get why Joe does that. I mean, it's definitely like, I would definitely, as a non-18-year-old who's kind of a little smarter now, I'd do the same thing. So, but yeah,
because you multiply that by hundreds of pullbox subscribers,
right?
It could sink you. That alone could sink you.
Disaster. So it's an interesting little thing. Now, you've done cool little things with pre-orders before. I'm just thinking about Valiant stuff, and this, I didn't think about this stuff ahead of time, but as I think about it, like, I'm remembering like what I loved about Valiant over and over again, and what you did there. And I never cared about variant covers before, but I got all the XO Manowar variant covers again, just because I was trying to support you guys. But you also did these pre-order variants, which was
Did you get the metal cover? That ridiculous metal cover that we did?
No, I was not able to secure that. And
we should talk after.
Okay. I know that pissed me off.
I got you.
That was super cool. They've got they did a glass cover recently of one.
Yeah.
Of ones.
Which sounds cool. I love crazy gimmicks. It sounds cool, but I'm disappointed because they didn't do their homework, and I hear that you can't get it graded. And anytime you do something like that, you gotta go to CBC. You gotta go to CBCS and say, is this something that you guys will grade? I think it's too thick. It won't fit in the case, and it's like, what are you guys doing? But
you did this. This is the cool thing you do with pre-orders to help mitigate that issue 2 drop again, like I was mentioning. You did it. It was like four books at a time, or 5 books at a time, whatever the arc was, and you'd have to sign up to pre-order the entire thing. And my shop thought I was crazy at the time. They're just like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, that's freaking cool." Like, you get the whole pre-order bundle, and I don't have to worry about it. I get this cool variant that's different than everything else. Yeah. Not only that, but you like added pages to the middle of the book where like you'd add some script pages, you'd show some like original art, you'd talk about the process, have an interview in there. So you gave those DVD extras to the pre-orders also. So there's really a good incentive to do it. Just total innovative stuff. That was awesome. And I'm surprised nobody else has done that. like at this point.
I am too. I mean, we spent years. We did when we launched the company with in 2012 with the first X Manowar book. We did something called a pull box cover, which was something that you could only get if you were a pull box subscriber. Now there was no way to police that, and so people figured out within like 2 months that they could just order as many as they wanted. They didn't have to be a pull box subscriber, so that went away. We did the plus editions, which was again another kind of thing where we wanted you to pre-order. It was a deluxe edition for an extra $1, and we were hoping that people would go out of their way to pre-order it. And we figured it out to do the pre-order bundles. Whereas you're saying if you pre-order X amount of books for 8, 12, whatever the arc was, you get a different version with these little extras. And for us, it was great because you're printing the same book. You just ask the printer to put this 8-page signature in the middle when they bind it. So it's not that much more money. And then we create one little thing at the end. Again, printing is not expensive. Right. It's the writing, it's the art. And so if it's DVD special features, stuff that we're already creating to make the book anyway, it's very easy to have someone just Photoshop, a nice looking design for it.
Yeah. So Drake's mentioning this. So this was definitely based on that X-O Manowar metal cover. So I was joking when I was doing my crowdfund that like as a stretch goal, if we get to a certain point, I will do a completely metal book where every page is metal.
That's amazing.
It was a joke.
That's amazing.
But honestly, it's not a bad idea.
I would be so into that. How would you even like? Oh, I mean, it would be so thick.
I know. You'd have to like have like you'd have to like put like steel rings around it to hold it together.
You'd need rings.
Like
you have to ring bind it. That's even better. CGC definitely won't be able to grade that. Wouldn't fit in the long box.
That's so funny. Oh man, that was awesome. And number 2, the other cool thing that like really got me invested is once I started getting the entire Valiant line, you guys were very in touch with comic shops. Like you guys were like you had a marketing person who would just like call, is everything good? Like he'd call the comic shop every month. Yeah. It was Adam back then too.
Yeah.
Tommy did a great job. So here's what happened.
Adam led the team. I should say we had the biggest sales team in comics, and Adam led that team. It wasn't a big team. It's just to show you
the $80 comic book because the metal pages. I'm gonna have it's probably $100 comic book for 20 pages or whatever. Every page is metal. It'll be $100.
You could really do that. You could really make that thing.
And I bet you that I'd get very good sales off of it too if I made it like a limited. It's ridiculous. I don't actually want to, again, like, but the problem is like
you'd have to hand make them though.
I know. And I don't actually want to do this again because like as Dinesh has been hammering this entire time, I'm interested in telling stories. Like I thought about this. I got a new campaign coming up in about like 2 weeks, which is going to be like my best comic ever. And since I got 20 people here, I should show myself real quick since I've been
I'd like for an hour.
Stuff. We basically, I'm really into old pulps. Is kind of like our aesthetic here.
Awesome.
And so we're always trying to capture that, and of course, like I said, X-O Manowar really captured that. Let's see. And I'm trying to just figure out what I'm games.
Yeah, X is very much in the kind of Tarzan, Conan, John Carter, that vibe.
Okay, I can't find my stupid.
You can't find your own book?
I'm a very disorganized mess. So draft. Okay, I gotta get the draft up, and then I will not have a problem with this. Okay, I found it. I got my own book up. Okay. Problem is they're all labeled the same title because they've got, because it's the same title, but I've got my AI files and my TIFF files, and I'm just trying to get the preview PDF of the first issue. So this is going up. I'm not doing it next week because I'm going skiing in Tahoe next week. So I can't stream every day, and streaming is how I sell books. So This is not my book. This is your book.
That was a good looking book though.
That's a great looking book. I've definitely ordered that. Okay. So we wanted to do something that was in the vein of like the old Conan the Barbarian, because of that. And so we took a character, and I'm also a big fan of
who's coloring your book?
His name's Matt Krotz. Is he here tonight? I don't know if he's here tonight, but if he's not, I know he. Nice so we specifically wanted to try to get the colors of like the 1970s, so it wasn't as. It's a little different. It's maybe a little more Hellboy like. but it's close on that level. And I originally was like, okay, I'm gonna like do like, because all the Kickstarters do like 15 variants. They make tons of money on that all, and I just like backed it off at the end of the day because I'm just like, I don't want to.
That you stopped scrolling right here.
Oh, for the naked girl.
You know what you're doing. You're trying to sell some comics.
Hello. Yes, I didn't stop on the dude. Yes, for good reason. But I didn't want to do a ton of variants at the end of the day because I didn't want to source 20 artists and do that. So I ended up just doing what I always do. I do one variant, and then my actually interior artist is a oil painter also, so he did an oil painted cover. So it's a very different thing than normal. But again, like it's like I just want to tell stories, and like as much as fun as it would be to make a full metal version of this or whatever, like
that's a whole project on its own. It's as much work as this.
It's tough enough to format these in InDesign just to get it done for print. It takes too much of my time. So it's like I can't do a bunch of extra stuff like that. Otherwise, I'd not be able to come out with comics every month. And I think I'm the only person out there, period, who comes out with comics every month directly on Amazon. And whereas you're not doing the digital thing, I'm a Amazon novelist, like primarily, and that's where my bread and butter is. That's almost all digital. Like books, nobody buys physical copies. It's bizarre. So I'm very heavy on digital. And like if I'm going to continue at that rate where I can tell stories every month like this, guys, I just can't do that. I can't play that game. I can't play the collectible game. It's it. And I want to because I know money's there, but I just can't do it. So
it's that balance, right? You've got to find the balance of banging the drum. There's no such thing as a good product sells itself, unfortunately. So you've got to bang that drum. Do you have the oil? I'm going to help you out here. Do you have the oil painting cover? I'd love to see it actually. If you do,
sure, it's beautiful. This guy's incredible. I don't. It's not lettered, so I don't have the title on it. But
what is the title of the book?
Deus Vult. So
okay.
Yeah, and here's our oil painted cover. So this will do well.
Look at that thing. Is she a cat? Does she have a tail?
She's a cat woman. Yeah. So I always like to say that I am that I like to cater to my primary audiences, which is fundamentalist Christians and furries. So I try to make sure to make sure both audiences get everything they want out of this. So there are cat girls. So.
And is his sword? Is it like a magical sword, or why is it? Is that just like a artistic flourish?
It's just artistic flourish, yeah. So he's
cool. And this landscape. These are like dragons.
There's dragons in there. There's we've got the like flying monkey creatures like Wizard of Oz has kind of.
Awesome.
So we've got a full. So he's a crusader who gets who goes into a cave like John Carter and then ends up in this fantasy world that he has to like save these cat people basically. So
when's the Kickstarter start?
Not next week because I'm going to be skiing, but the week after that. I'll be just going full. So
and
that's what we're doing.
When will the book be in people's hands? Do you think?
June. It's already done. So
June. Okay.
Except for a couple. The one thing you can do on Kickstarters. Yeah, definitely. I'll make sure you get a copy.
No, I'm gonna support. I'm gonna.
Oh, that's nice.
Jump on the Kickstarter.
Thanks. The one thing I like to do is that I haven't really done for a lot of comics is, which is a good Kickstarter reward. And you should think about this because you're going to have to do Kickstarters for my my hardcover editions of these books that I'm going to want. And I'm telling you, you're doing this. But you can. But I've got a couple pages like where it's like I've left it open so I can draw backers into there. So they pay a little extra and they get drawn into the book, right? So yeah,
that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, so there's a lot of like Kickstarter's got a lot of cool ideas, and then you had a lot of innovative ideas, and if you merge all these things together, we're gonna have like a very interesting comic industry coming up soon. I think
Kickstarter, I think had a big moment with what Boom did with Berserker. I think changed a lot of people's attitudes to Kickstarter. Because it was always the fear from publishers is always that it's gonna look like a cash grab or that you're struggling for money. And Boom did such an amazing job. And then had so much success outside of Kickstarter as well.
Did you see? Did you see how the Power Rangers thing just went?
No. How'd that go? What happened?
Oh, hold on. Let me pull this up. This isn't very professional of me, but Power Rangers. There we are. Okay, so I'm gonna pull this up here. So this is how the streams go. I kind of stream of thought things, and then I pull things up and
Cool.
talk about whatever I feel like talking about. So it's IDW. It's Boom. It's Boom. Okay. And they ran Power Rangers Kickstarter, and they did, check this out. It's like I keep telling you, deluxe hardcovers in a box. And you get a special Kickstarter box. I'm trying to find what the hardcovers look like. By the way, the Power Rangers they're running at Boom right now, even if you don't like Power Rangers, this is what the books look like. They're beautiful. And then you get a slipcase version too. You pay extra for the slipcase, of course. And they did, check out what they did on this. $800,000.
Yeah. Great for them. It looks beautiful. I mean, this art's beautiful.
Yeah.
Who's the writer?
It's Kyle
Higgins?
Kyle Higgins, correct. Yeah. And Kyle Higgins is just blows it out of the park. It's
I hear he's doing a great job on it.
Yeah. I've never been a big Power Rangers guy, but I read this and I was like, wow, I kind of want to be a Power Rangers guy, you know? So but their Kickstarter, they just crushed it. And I'm very happy for them. So it's good. Whatever gets quality fun out. So
yeah.
But the last thing I wanted to say was about the Valiant sales team to the other thing that was very good at hooking. So obviously the pre-orders was really cool. Bright yellow covers. By the way, always put bright yellow and stuff on your covers. And I will
yellow and red.
This is something I always do. Yellow and red, 100%. Especially for a book one. After book one, it doesn't matter as much. But guys, I did this, and this is my main series. I did a bright yellow color, and I just sell copies of this over and over. And this sold close to 30,000 copies now. Wow, and I just throw it on Amazon.
Amazing.
It's all this cover though, 100%. Cute girl on the cover, yellow, and that's what I'm telling you. That's one piece of advice: put a cute girl on the cover and do yellow. And that's why I bought XO Manowar, because there is a cute girl on the cover, but that's not what. Yeah, because she's
there's a face.
There's a little face. No. There's two, because I bought the Star Wars.
Oh yeah, there's the one. Yeah. Next to.
But he's not. She's not really prominent, so it is just him. But it was yellow, and that's what drew my attention. Yeah. The reason I got into Valiant was yellow.
Because of the yellow logo, that big Tom Mueller, big beautiful yellow logo.
Yeah. That's why I saw it on the stands, and no other book looked like that, right? Yeah. But what happened with the community customer service? And I've been drinking, so I'm getting less eloquent.
Good.
Yeah.
We're getting to the truth here.
What I liked about this customer service, like I said, they check in with the comic book thing every month. So my comic book guy, store guy, which is not Joe at Flying Colors at the time. This was Crush Comics in Castro Valley. So if you've ever been there.
No, I haven't. But
okay. Because my little geographical area is very interesting. There's really 4 comic book shops within 15 minutes of me, and so I try to go to all of them. I really am this type of person where it's just like I pre-order a couple from here and a couple from here and a couple from here.
That's really cool.
Keep them all in business, right?
That's cool.
And I'm really a sucker for small business. So in independent comics, same sort of deal.
Yeah.
But so after a while, that they start going, yeah, we've got one guy at the shop, and he just buys all the Valiant stuff. He buys all their variants, blah 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 blah. And so they actually sent me at that point. They sent the shop a handwritten note, and I don't remember who it was from, but it was from one of your marketing people saying thank you for supporting Valiant, and here's a little gift. And they sent me.
What did we send you?
You sent me the original Expo Manowar #1 by Vendetti, signed by him.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wow, this is real. They really they paid attention to a customer, and you don't know me from Adam, you know? And that's really, really cool. So you guys really had top-notch customer service beyond any comic company I've ever seen. Yeah.
It was as much fun. That's why the team was so great. It was as much fun for us to do that, because you're in that position. You're going to do that. Why not? Great. Call Rob. Hey, you signed this thing. We heard this is super custom. This super fan over here, and then send it over, and then eventually hear a nice story like this. It's just fun, man. It's just we all get to kind of play in the Stan Lee sandbox a little bit. It's nice.
Yeah.
And you make a customer for life. You make a fan for life.
Right. It's
Not
like
just a Valiant fan, but like a comics fan.
And I know, I've got a business degree from Berkeley, so like I know these tricks, like inherent, like I know it.
But they still work. They still work though, right?
And at the same time, I'm just like, whatever Dinesh does, So I think I'll end it there because we've been a little bit over an hour. Unless you guys in the chat have questions about Bad Idea, I put the link in several times. Please pre-order it from your local comic shop. You sell it. Why? I'm selling you. You sell you.
No, you're doing great. You're doing great. I was just gonna thank you for putting the link in.
Yeah, let's make sure these guys are a success because like I love the experimentation on the distribution side, on the product side, and of course I know the creators, they're going to be very experimental on the story side also.
Having fun.
It's just like this is the type of thing we got to go all in on and make sure is a huge success, and that's my pitch for it. So
thanks, man.
Yeah,
thanks for having me. Cool. It's been a blast.
Cool.
We should do this again.
Definitely. Yeah. Anytime you guys got something new coming out, we're definitely happy to support. So, yeah. Thanks for coming on, and appreciate your time. And
of course.
We'll end it here. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
There will be no streams next week because I'm going to be skiing. So see you.